Your avatar is like kind of weird. Like, are you using something to like change your camera view?
You're listening to a recording of David Michaldo. He's conducting a remote job interview for a position in his cybersecurity firm.
Can you take your hand and put it like in front of your face to like cover it partially?
But David can tell that something's not right. The candidate appears to be using a filter to disguise their face, and they sound strange. They ask David if his requests are a joke.
No, it's not a joke because I can see that you're using some kind of software.
The candidate refuses to put his hand in front of his face.
No, like put it like this, in front of your face. If you don't do it, we'll end the conversation right now.
David ends the call. He was startled by the experience when it happened in March this year, but this wasn't the first time something like this had happened to his company. His co-founder Claudia experienced something similar last year.
My first instinct was, wow, okay, like it happened again, like what do I do now? And I thought, okay, this time I will record it. Because when the first incident happened, nobody believed us. People thought that we were joking. I wanted to make sure that we have a proof that like something this weird happened to us.
After the call, David looked carefully into the job applicants for his company's vacancies and found more than 20 that he suspected were also hiding their real identity.
When you just search them in Google, you won't find anything about them. And when you start looking deeply into their LinkedIn profiles, you will see that the accounts usually are pretty new.
This is not isolated to David's firm. I've spoken to several cybersecurity and software development professionals who say they've become inundated with applications from suspicious candidates too. And although they can't be completely certain, most believe these candidates have one thing in common.
We talked with experts and they believe it might be related to the North Korea.
Could the man on the other end of David's call really be from one of the most secretive and insular countries in the world?
For a couple of minutes, when he joined the call, I gaslighted myself because, I couldn't believe that this is happening.
It's a threat that may seem far-fetched, but evidence suggests the issue is much more prevalent than you may think. The FBI believes thousands of North Koreans have made millions of dollars using fake, stolen, or borrowed identities to work remotely in the US. I'm Beth Godwin, and for BBC Trending, I'm investigating how these North Korean IT workers are impacting tech companies across the US and Europe. We've tracked down defectors from North Korea with insider information about how these operations work.
That the North Korean government is responsible for these actions. This is the hack against Sony Pictures.
Cyber intelligence experts here in Seoul say that this has the fingerprints of hackers from North Korea all over it.
The attack was widespread and cost billions, and North Korea is directly responsible.
North Korea's cyber capabilities received widespread attention back in 2014 with the infamous Sony Pictures cyber attack. Sony was releasing The Interview, a film that included a fictional plot to assassinate North Korea's authoritarian leader, Kim Jong-un. In response, hackers inflicted devastating harm, leaking information and damaging Sony's computer infrastructure. This hack and some other major cyber attacks are believed to be conducted by the Lazarus Group, hackers that are associated with North Korea's military, although North Korea denies the group's existence. As for the IT workers, they're also raising funds for Kim Jong-un, but in a much more mundane way. It's understood that rather than raising money for the regime via hacking, like the Lazarus Group, more often than not, they're trying to get jobs at Western companies simply to collect the paycheck. They need to disguise the fact they're North Korean, not just because they can get paid more by impersonating Westerners, but because North Korea is heavily sanctioned by the international community, largely in response to the country's nuclear weapons program. It's hard to find out information about these IT workers, but through PS Score, People for Successful Korean Reunification, an NGO that advocates for North Korean human rights, we've spoken to a North Korean defector who used to be an IT worker. For his safety, we have used an actor to disguise his voice.
China is the most common base. Physically, we deploy to China the most, followed by Russia and then some Southeast Asian countries.
Hong Jin-soo, not his real name, worked as an IT worker for the North Korean regime for several years, mostly in China, before he defected.
Internet access is limited inside North Korea. Of course, there are limited places where it is possible, but they send us abroad so that we can work with easy internet access.
Jin-soo told us that at first he enjoyed his work and the opportunity to go abroad.
When I was in North Korea, the hardest part was getting enough to eat. But once you get to China, there's plenty of food you can have. Most overseas IT workers are fairly satisfied. During the 3 or 4 years they work abroad, they generally don't have many complaints.
He described how he and his colleagues fake their identities to help them find work, often by firstly posing as Chinese.
We target countries like Hungary, Ukraine, Turkey, and the UK, and then we launder our identities once more there. Like, let's share your identity. In exchange, I'll pay you a certain amount of money per month, or something like that. They think we're Chinese. We spend 60 to 70% of our time contacting people to make fake identities.
And then using multiple fake identities, Jin-soo and his colleagues would then be able to find work in European and US markets.
There are online outsourcing sites where you can find IT jobs. We create an account and register a profile, which of course is all fake. Sometimes later on, when you get paid, the company account comes up and then you see the name of the company and you realize which company it was. But there are so many companies, I don't remember any in particular.
Despite Jin-soo saying that most IT workers are satisfied, they only got to keep a small amount of their salary.
The lowest salary we usually get is $5,000 a month. That leaves about $750 in my pocket, and all the rest goes to the state. We know it's just like robbery, but we just accept it as our fate, and we just work, because it's still much better than when we were in North Korea.
Still, the working conditions were challenging.
We weren't allowed to go out and had to stay indoors all the time. After living like that for 3 to 4 years, the sense of confinement builds up. I suppose over time, people naturally start to desire more well-being, right? The desire for happiness grows stronger, and around then, people start saying they want to go back to home.
It's difficult for us to independently verify Jin-soo's testimony, but we have seen second-hand information from other defected IT workers gathered by PS Score, which aligns with Jin-soo's experiences. And I've spoken to another defector, Hyung-sung Lee, who met North Koreans working in IT when he was travelling as a businessman for the regime in China back in 2008.
So I went to Chinese college and I got my undergraduate studying international trade and economics. So after my graduation, I got involved in trade between China and North Korea.
Hyung-sung Lee, who now lives in the United States after escaping in 2014, comes from an elite family in North Korea. But despite his membership of the upper classes, he still had to do what every North Korean citizen does weekly, their life review session. Every Saturday, North Koreans attend group appraisals where they criticise themselves and their peers. Hyung-sung told me he was sent to do this with a group of IT workers.
I need a group to have a weekly session, but I'm a young person and compared to other business officials, they're all so I was sent to the IT workers group.
This was in Dalian City in northeast China. Hyung-sung managed to stay in contact with some IT workers after he defected. He told me that, like Jin-soo said, he saw IT workers living in cramped conditions under near constant surveillance.
They put the surveillance camera on their screen and then they're monitoring what they are doing. And they have cell phones, secretly, but they don't have SIM card. So sometimes when they go out, they just capture the free Wi-Fi from a coffee shop and then they send emails and also communicate.
And this is one reason why it's become so difficult for IT workers to escape. From PS Score and other NGOs, we know that only a small number have defected.
IT workers are valuable. The regime's main source of income now is cybercrime. So the regime won't let IT workers go.
A United Nations Security Council report estimated that the IT workers' scheme as a whole generates between $250 to $600 million a year for North Korea, directly contravening UN sanctions. Some human rights organisations describe the conditions these IT workers live in as amounting to human rights abuses. But despite this, like Jin-Soo said, Hyung-sung tells me that being an IT worker can be seen as a desirable job in North Korea. We contacted the North Korean embassy in London to put the allegations in this programme to them. They did not respond. It's challenging to find out information from these IT workers, but the Western companies who have unwittingly employed them are also hesitant to speak. Almost none have publicly admitted to hiring a North Korean IT worker, even though the FBI thinks the numbers are in the thousands. However, one firm did go public with their story.
Hi, Rob Henley. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Ally Security. My former employer, who I used to work for, KnowBe4, had a very public situation where they had actually hired a North Korean. So I saw that all over like my LinkedIn feed and other places.
Rob's cybersecurity firm is based in New England. After a seemingly thorough interview process and background checks, Rob's previous employer, KnowBe4, spotted suspicious activity on their new hire's laptop, quickly disabled access to their systems and started an investigation. Their new employee had downloaded sensitive company data and sent a ransom demand. After sharing information with the FBI and Google, KnowBe4 concluded their new employee was North Korean. So Rob was pretty aware of the threat when he was hiring for his new startup.
It was definitely something that was kind of like in the back of my mind. The issue with the North Koreans started probably for us at least around November, December last year.
He told me that once he started advertising for positions at his company, right away the suspicious candidates poured in.
Like immediately, as soon as we hit post, we started getting applications and a lot of them were clearly scammers. So from the CVs, it's honestly hard to tell. I would do an initial 15-minute screening with everybody who kind of passed the initial test just to like meet them. So we would do them over Zoom, cameras on, and, you know, there was a bunch of like red flags you could see right away. Virtual backgrounds, like, you know, people masking their appearances, people masking their voices.
He tried to sift out the suspicious candidates.
I tried a bunch of different things. I started off just by asking, you know, like personal questions. I did do identification checks at the beginning of some of the interviews, but then I realized like these candidates were making it all the way through the process at other companies and actually getting hired. So they probably had like fake driver's licenses, fake passports.
And eventually he found an effective way of identifying them.
Ultimately, like my favorite question was, can you show me that it's daytime outside where you are? Literally like just move your computer, show me the daylight. We were only hiring candidates from the US for these positions. It should have been at least light outside, but I never saw daylight, so.
We shared David's video with Get Real Security, a digital forensics company. They say it's highly likely the candidate is using some kind of face swapping or AI filter. Rob estimates that between 3 to 4 in every 10 candidates that have applied for a job with him is a North Korean IT worker. He thinks he's probably interviewed around 30 of them. After his experience, David went back and reviewed the applicants to his firm too, and said a similar proportion appeared to be scammers as well. And if you think that number seems high, the founder of cryptocurrency startup Gatekeep believes 95% of the resumes he receives are North Koreans.
Initially, it was like a game to some extent, like trying to figure out who was real and who was fake, but it got pretty annoying pretty quickly.
We don't know for sure that the candidates Rob spoke to, or the person in David's mysterious interview, were North Koreans. They could be an applicant from another country outside of the US or Europe, just trying to get a job with a better salary. But we do know that North Korea's scheme is expanding into Europe, having boomed during the pandemic in the US.
A lot of people in the industry would understand that this is an issue in the US. As part of that, it's been a tougher environment for these North Korean operatives to work. They've had their infrastructure taken down.
That's Jamie Collier. He works for Google's Threat Intelligence Group. Jamie tracks the spread of North Korean IT workers and helps companies investigate when they believe they may have hired one by accident. He believes they are now increasingly targeting Europe.
What we see in Europe is far less awareness. We're often briefing security leaders across the continent who are surprised that this is even an issue at all. Europe doesn't really have its guard up against this issue, and that is allowing these IT workers to get in pretty easily.
Rob and David told me that around 30 to 40% of applicants they receive seem to be North Korean. That's a huge figure, and there may be fraudulent applications coming in from countries other than North Korea. But does it tally with what Jamie's seeing?
Yeah, I think so. And what we are also seeing is that there are these kind of multiplier effects, if you like. So actually, once you've hired one, they might recommend some of their colleagues or their co-workers. And that network of different IT workers that are endorsing each other, referring each other, it boosts the legitimacy of those.
And he thinks the man that David spoke to is probably a North Korean IT worker.
I think anyone that's kind of using AI to mask their face is perhaps a little bit of a red flag.
Jamie doesn't underestimate the savviness of these workers or the regime.
They're not just creating fake CVs that are claiming that they've got all these skills and don't have any capability to back that up. One anecdote of someone that was told one of their employers was an IT worker, and they said, you better be right because that's one of my best workers.
And Jinsu says the IT skills he honed working for the regime are now helping him settle into his new life.
IT technology is a global technology, so you can work and live anywhere.
And because he's no longer working multiple jobs with different fake identities, he's actually earning less money than when he worked for the regime. But because he can keep more of what he earns for himself, overall he's still being paid more. For now, Rob and David are confident the people they did end up hiring are who they say they are.
We do get together as a team, even though we're remote, so pretty confident at this point that everybody is who they say they are.
We pay for the flight tickets and the full day of work for the person to just understand if the person is real or not.
That's it for this edition of Trending from the BBC World Service, with me, Beth Godwin. Thanks to Julie Yoon-Young Lee, Ed Main, and our editor, Flora Carmichael.